And as you can see by the Wordle, our teachers were largely viewing iPads as a tool to facilitate an activity as part of their rotation. And interestingly enough, they were planning to have the iPads as an activity, but were not planning the learning which the iPads were providing. So from there, we carried out a questionnaire, and the data we gained gave us an ideal starting point to group teachers and their next learning steps and what they were in using the iPads. And I wanted to develop a step process to guide the teachers on their journey. And I intended to use the data to put teachers in working groups to help target their specific needs rather than undertaking a mass PD session.
So we decided to take a look at the 3 age phases of children to provide us some deeper learning, some deeper snapshots of learning that's going on within our junior years. So we took a Year 2 class, which is Jade's class, a new entrance room, which is my room, and a kindy, which is a Rototuna, the kindy next door to us. We were in fact working with 2 kindies, but we really started at the beginning with Rototuna kindy because they were just about to purchase iPads, so it was really good to get on board with them from the very start of their journey. So you can see in the photo that's the 3 groups we worked with. The kindy hadn't purchased any iPads. They wanted to, they were very curious about it, but they were a little bit nervous about it as well. They were considering purchasing initially 2 iPads. They decided one would be for their staff and one would be for the children. And as we'd had iPads for a wee while, we kind of thought, you're actually looking quite small here. So, not that I like to spend lots of money, but at the same time, we took over our 5-year-old iPad experts, which we'd got them all trained up on particular programs they felt quite passionate about, and took over a bag of 6 iPads and literally just put our children in with the kindy children and just let them explore. We found a real difference between the adults and the children. The children just on board straight away, pressing the screens, touching the screens, you know, not fazed at all by any of the technology. And in fact, a lot of them probably had it at home as well, to be fair. The thing that we did notice were the adults. Don't press that, don't do that, that's not supposed to do that. Be careful with that now if you break that. So they immediately had this kind of sort of nervous sort of reaction to the iPads, whereas the students didn't, and the 3 and 4-year-olds were walking around the sandpit, taking the pictures, and just happy, really quite a natural extension to their play and their learning. After a period of a year now, the same kindy has sent most of their teachers on an iPad course, just to keep them into the way of thinking, and they're looking at purchasing a larger number of iPads than they initially intended at the start of the year. This is our new entrance room. Just bear with me. So in our new entrance room, I decided at the start of the year I was going to fully embrace iPads. I wanted to integrate them into everything I could possibly do within my literacy. So I wanted it to be part of what I did. I was really enthusiastic about it. I planned everything around it. But actually what I was doing was putting the cart before the horse. I was not putting the learning in the first position. I was putting the iPads in the first position. And the lesson I learned this year was that an iPad is a tool. It is not the learning. The learning has to come first. And the integration that I was really wanting to aim for at the end of the year, the true integration, comes from understanding what tool is the best for a particular piece of learning. If the iPad is not the best tool for that piece of learning, then don't contrive it. You know, move on, use the pencil and paper, use a laptop, use whatever's the best motivation for it. I found a lot of scenarios it is the best motivation, but I've stopped trying to work around what the iPad does, more putting the learning first.
So this is some snaps from my classroom, and in my Year 2 classroom I've focused on using the iPads specifically to target the needs of students. So just some of the ways that I use the iPads in my classroom. For shared reading, I use the iPads through Apple TV and just use the books on the iPads as my big books, and my kids really love that, and then it means that later on in my rotations they're able to do those same big books and use the Apple TV as well, so it's not just a teacher tool, the Apple TV, I've really got my students to use it as well. And I now have gone, initially when I started using the iPads I kind of just popped plonk them on the table and let the kids go for it in my rotation. Now I specifically choose apps that meet their needs and pop them on my rotation boards. So I've got, and every group is different, so I'm really targeting their learning and their needs, and it means that they're making the most of that time as well. And I do that for reading and for writing and for maths. So it's been a really big part of my rotations, and I've changed my thinking quite a bit with that. And I also have began to use the iPads during my guided sessions. So I'm often, especially with my struggling readers, I'll record them reading on the iPads, and then they'll go away and listen to themselves. And then often they'll say, can I record that again, because I wasn't reading like a storyteller and I want to have another go. So then they'll record again and they can compare how their reading sounded in the first place and why it sounds better in the second place. I also get students to go away and use them as follow-up activities. So if they're working on retelling, they'll go away and they'll retell their story to the iPad and listen to it back and see if they need to add more details. So I also use it for questioning as well. If I've got a group of students who are working on comprehension, I'll often pose some questions on the Show Me app or on Notability, and they'll answer the questions verbally as opposed to having to write them down, because it's not a writing test at the end of the day. I want to know what they've understood from it. So the iPads have really helped me to specifically meet the students' needs and actually provide opportunities for them to share their knowledge and capture it in a really, really good way. I also use Apple TV as my modelling book for writing and to motivate my writers. We often go on Kiwi Kids News and we talk about how we navigate around the internet to do that. Some of them also use the dictionary apps to check their writing afterwards, so the students really are using the technology to meet their needs. And like Hazel said, it's not just because I want them to use them, they actually do meet their needs, and it's all about the learning. And if it doesn't fit, then I'm not going to push it. And I don't use the iPads for every single thing I do, don't use them every single day. It's just when they support the learning.
I think the other thing that we haven't got on here is that we did trial giving Jade an iPad as well as a member of staff, so that we've had a teacher's perspective this year on how Jade's personally developed with having access to the iPad at home and at school for her own use.
And I think with that, having them at home, having the iPad at home, I can specifically plan to meet those needs, as opposed to having to, I've got this set book, so I better just grab it, and they can do this one because I don't really know what it's about, but I'm comfortable with it. Whereas I know lots of the apps and how they work and which one would meet the students' needs. So that's been quite a big learning journey as well, and I've been able to target that learning better simply because I had my own.
So, to conclude, iPads are a great tool. They are especially great for younger children as they are accessible, they're easy to use, they're tough, they're durable, and they give a very young child an immediate reaction by just pressing directly onto the screen.
We are also more aware as to how teachers use iPads and where we need to target our PD. We are more aware that iPads take time. Over this year with changes, I'm responsible for updating the apps and keeping track of the iPads. This is a time-consuming job, but undoubtedly the pluses outweigh the negatives. We love our iPads and they are here to stay. We have recently purchased some more and have negotiated an e-book account so that children can use these in our school library, just the way they would any other library book. There is a lot of exciting learning ahead through this technology.